What's your most money-consuming hobby? Before we start with the first story, please hit subscribe and ring the notification bell to stay updated with us. Story 1. I collect rocks. My favorite rocks glow. Turns out it's a majority asbestos, and my apartment is filled with probably 200 pounds of it. I'm processing this information currently. Fun story. When I was a flight attendant, a lady came on board asking for help lifting her bag. I explained we could help lift with her, but couldn't lift it alone because of injury risk. If you got hurt lifting a bag, you wouldn't be covered by workers' comp. She said, "Oh no, I can't lift it at all." I go to check how heavy it is, and it's not just heavy, it's dense. I have no idea how this lady carried it through the airport. I say, "Wow, it feels like a bag of rocks." She excitedly replies, "Yes, that's exactly what it is." Turns out her husband was a geologist and she liked to collect rocks for him. I told her it was probably unsafe to have something that heavy in the overhead bin, because if it fell, it would probably knock someone out cold, LOL. We got the strongest looking baggage handler to come up and check the bag for her. Still one of my favorite passenger stories. She was so sweet and funny and talked to me about rocks for the rest of the flight. Story 2. D&D. The amount I've spent on source books, miniatures, and snacks is disgusting. I foolishly thought 3D printing and painting my own minis would be way cheaper. Let's not even start to consider my time spent painting, but the cost of resin, paint, the airbrush I upgraded to, brushes, etc., plus the MMF, Patreon memberships for monthly files. Then factor in my Dice Goblin tendencies, just dropped a bill on a single D20 plus maps, snacks since I'm the host, and everything else. It's wild. Story 3. Horses. I've had my horse for 17 years and financially, I gave it pretty much all I got. He recently passed away, and although my heart is broken, I am incredibly aware of how much money I am saving now that I do not own a horse anymore. I tell my wife we should have named our pair Dollar and Bill, because while you think horses eat hay and grain, they actually eat the legal tender of the USA for breakfast, lunch, dinner, second breakfast, tea, and a midnight snack. I can't look at them without spending $100. Heaven forbid my wife looks at them, then it's $200. Catalogs from Dover, Tractor Supply, SmartPack, etc. are ideally sent straight to the trash if I can intercept the mail. But in the internet era, they're just delivered via email straight to my wife's inbox, so that trick is somewhat ineffective. Alas, we love the beasties. Story 4. Having project cars that are never finished. I'm in the process of Project Car FDRX7 build. I decided partway through to return to school and get my master's, so I've reallocated all available cash to school, and that has significantly expanded the timeline. That being said, it is currently drivable, and with the exception of some minor interior trim panels, it is drivable, which I feel like is an okay place for it for the next few years. Story 5. Fish keeping. Many years ago, I went to a university event that had you paint a fishbowl and they gave you a fish. In hindsight, it was probably a terrible event for the fish. Either way, I had that white cloud mountain minnow Putin for over 3 years. In that time, he moved from a bowl to a tank and then a bigger tank. Got a friend, got some plants, and had babies with his friend. I now have an even bigger tank with a goofy goldfish in it. When my canister filter stopped working randomly, I didn't bat an eye at spending over $200 to replace it. Fish are definitely a lifestyle, and people generally tend to treat them like garbage. When Putin passed when I was on vacation, I cried a lot. My dad asked why I was crying because it's just a fish. No, it wasn't just a fish. I've also spent a lot of time doing water changes to cycle tanks and a lot of time cleaning up spills. Definitely not an easy hobby. Story 6. I buy pretty notebooks and never write in them. I understand they look so lovely, and the prospect and use of imagination upon the blank page fills one with hope. Plus, the perfection of the blank notebook and having to live up to that means they often will never be used. The secret is to get someone to scribble a bit in your notebook. Then you can start using it. That can also help if giving them as a gift. Make some marks. Write or draw something in them so your friend feels free to use them. And nice pens. Bullet journals are my weakness. Now Walmart has notebooks with bullet-style pages and I am out of savings. I don't even use them as notebooks. I rip the pages out and put them in a binder. I do use them occasionally for project planning. But when I do, I use way too much because each page has to look perfect. Story 7. Warhammer 40K. That crap is more expensive than gold. We had a guy here in town, I think about a decade ago, maybe sooner, actually rob a bank, and he almost got away with it all. Except he started buying a crap ton of brand new figurines for W40K, and I think also stuff for MTG. People got suspicious, and from what I understand, someone tipped off the cops and they raided his house, and he had a closet full of cash like what you see in The Mask. I'm not sure if the dude is still in prison or not, but I know the company he did it for was also an LGS, and they went completely under. Story 8. Photography. Between buying high-quality cameras, lenses, and editing software, plus traveling to interesting locations, it really adds up. But capturing those perfect moments makes it worth every penny. I got back into it over the past 2 years and have spent more than I care to admit. I also spend a ton on travel, but I figure I'd be spending that anyway. Photography just makes it easier to capture the memories and goes well with the lifestyle. Nice thing though is, photography doesn't have to be expensive. Top quality lenses don't change that much and can last you potentially decades. And there's a pretty solid used market as well. Story 9. Guitars. As guitarists, we're spoiled. You can spend $3,000 to $4,000 and get a top-of-the-line, professional quality guitar that does everything you could ever need for a guitar. For orchestra instruments, you're barely at the beginner prices. Professionals spend many tens of thousands on a single instrument. A guitarist friend of mine is also a violin maker and owns a music shop for orchestral instruments. I asked him if he ever thought about making guitars, and he said, "Let's do the math. I could spend a couple months building a guitar and sell it for $3,500, or I could spend the same amount of time building a violin and sell it for $50,000. And that's all I needed to know. Story 10. Cheese. No, really, I spend way too much on cheese. Fancy cheese from a fancy store, soft and hard. The kinds of cheese that normal people are like, why is that wedge of cheese so expensive? It's not even for a gathering, for people to share. It's just for me. I get nice crackers and hot honey and salami and olives and all the charcuterie board stuff. But it's not for a get-together, it's just for me. And I absolutely do not regret a single second or dollar spent on these cheeses. I really just like a good cheese. This is like some strange narcissistic Dr. Seuss writing. I eat cheese just for me, not for you or him or her. Fancy cheese from a fancy store, with prices that make wallets purr. Soft and hard, blue and brie, I'll hoard them all, just for me. Is there a party? The cashier might plead, nope, just me in a cheese fantasy. So if you see my cart piled high, don't even ask. My cheese is mine, oh my. Story 11. Collecting hobbies. I get into a new one every month and never stop buying gear. This reminds me of a dude I went to college with. He had all sorts of gadgets and stuff he'd either carry around with him or at the very least have it in his car. He was one of the first dudes in our age group that had a decent cell phone. First dude I knew to have an iPod, had an assortment of gaming handhelds. And it just wasn't electronics. He collected a menagerie of stuff, and most of the time it was useful. We used to call him Gadget Matt within our friend circle. Need a lighter? Gadget Man's got it. Beer isn't a twist top? Gadget Man's got a bottle opener. Dude landed a date in the university parking lot. She had a flat, and he plugged her tire for her, reinflated it, and got her number in the process. We were at a house party at our friend Daniel's place. Dudes got rowdy and ended up knocking a hole in the drywall of the garage. They fixed it with the busted pieces, random bees, and a can of Flex Seal, or some sort of spray adhesive, out of Gadget Man's car. I'm not claiming it was a professional job of any kind, but in the moment, it kept Daniel from getting his ass chewed out and us losing our hangout venue, at least for a little while until his folks found it. Story 12. Golf. Golf cart clubs, balls, tees equal to a lot of money. I kept tabs last year. I spent $3,480 on golf. $340 at driving ranges, $1,100 for membership at my local course, $241 on green fees at other courses, $846.33 on new clubs and gear, $140 in the simulator, a couple hundred on lessons. And the rest on food, drinks, pro shop stuff at the course. I played 51 18-hole rounds and 45 9-hole rounds, so roughly $12 an hour for a hobby that has brought me some incredible friendships and memories. And incidentally, about 40 pounds of weight loss. If you're a casual golfer like me and my group, try to play once a week together, more often every other weekend. Only playing municipal courses can be very affordable, not much more than 100 to 200 month. I don't count drinks. I'm probably drinking on the weekend anyway. But the ceiling is enormous. Sure, you can find a great set of used clubs, but can also easily drop thousands on a new set, or play Pro V1s, active lessons, dozens of range days at $10 pop adds up, club memberships, etc. Golfing twice a week or more, slipping in 9 holes any free time you have. Some people sink a stupid amount of money into it. Story 13, Magic the Gathering. Collection closing in on $100,000, if not already above. My dad taught us to play as kids. We loved it so much. We'd spend whole weekends playing. We taught our friends at school how to play. It was awesome. He had an amazing collection. And boy, the decks he built were amazing. Amazing. When he was deployed to Iraq, he took them all with him and taught a whole bunch of army men how to play. He couldn't bear taking it away from them when he came back home. Dad has never seen a single card again from that batch, and he doesn't regret it one single bit. I have an amazing dad. Now my dad's crazy expensive habit is Dungeons and Dragons again. He's not raising 5 kids anymore and has a lot of free time and several 3D printers. The games are amazing. We play every other Sunday. 5 at the house and 2 join us online. 7 people and dad is the DM, making 8. It's great. Story 14, Cycling. My fiance and I are both into the hobby, so if I buy a neat gadget, then he needs one too. And then I feel bad if I buy myself a shiny New Jersey. There was that one time we went shopping for new tires and he left with a Trek Imonda that was on sale. Then he pushed me to buy the Cannondale Super 6 Evo I saw the week before so we could both have new bikes, LOL. The only sport where I show up to get some exercise on a 3,000 bike and everyone rolls their eyes at me that I still don't have a $1,000 power meter. And every motorist on the road is hostile and dangerous. I've moved on to other things. A few years ago, I bought cheap $300 Canadian tire bike that I told myself I would just boot around town with, and 2 bikes later I have $3,000 setup that's not even complete yet, which is a lot of money for me. I'm also about to drop $2K traveling to a new city to check out their bike trails. No regrets though, love it. Story 15, Drumming, and that's my final answer. Don't believe me? Observe sticks, 14.95 pounds drum key, 5.99 pounds double bass pedals, 369.99 pounds cymbal pack, 260 pounds cymbal stands, 175 pounds double bass pedal case, 25 pounds snare, 225 pounds low, mid, and floor toms, 750 pounds for all 3 electric kit, 1,899 pounds in ear monitors, 250 pounds lessons, 25 pounds bass, traveling to venue to play, about 15 pounds minus 30 depending on fuel. I've been playing for about 20 years and man, I have to say, I love my Alesis mesh kit. You can break out the signals from the rims and add more pads and cymbals. Then throw something like Steven Slate drums over it and it does a good job. My kit has 5 toms, 5 cymbals, double pedals, and can be any sound you want for less than $1,200 all in. Nobody complains about noise. I can record with a USB cable and it fits in my tiny office. Do I still want that giant white Tama Artstar 2 kit Lars had in the late 80s, early 90s? Absolutely, but the Alesis kit will tide me over until then. Alright folks, that's a wrap. If you like this, please hit the thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. You can also share your those in the comment below.